Live from deep in an underground bunker in East Tennessee, this is America's premier mortgage field services expert, Paul Williams.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Foreclosurepedia Podcast. Foreclosurepedia Podcast is a presentation of the Foreclosurepedia Radio Network, which premieres each Sunday evening. We're here at the bottom of the hour. The time is 16:30 hours Eastern Daylight Time. We've been talking about a whole lot of things today. It's been a fast-paced moving show, and we're going to reach out to a great colleague and friend of mine, Aaron Aviero, who's going to help me attempt to sort through some of the details of this latest trend and fashion called clearboarding. Aaron Aviero, you out there, Aaron?
Yeah, how are you today?
Hey, pretty good, my brother. How about yourself?
Oh, worse than some, better than most. Just trying to get by and do this broken back thing without that opiate pain management.
Boy, I hear you. Hey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? For those who are just tuning in and they're not familiar. So you run All Day LLC. Whenever it comes to organic farming or products that I need, I use them all the time from Aaron. They come from you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the ranch out there where you're at, what you do in your company?
Well, I came out here to the Wainema Ranch, which is a wild horse and burro sanctuary, kind of safe haven for people who don't know anything about the wild horse issues going on in the United States. Lacey J. Dalton is involved among some of the celebrities. But they capture the USDA or the Bureau of Land Management will round up horses and put them into an auction. And we've domesticated horses. So people here in the United States have this issue about them going into the food chain. And Wainema Ranch offers these horses that would normally be auctioned off to go in somebody's food chain. They give them sanctuary here. It's pretty kind of cool. It's pretty neat. And of course, there's a couple, I don't know, many people have seen me and Bunny. Bunny's for dead by their herd when it was born with a broken foot. And Bureau of Land Management contacted them. Shari and Eddie gave the donkey a home. But what I came here for was to help with some sustainable agriculture programs to complement what they're doing. I specialize myself, because I like chilies, in the hottest chilies in the world. I'll give you some names of chilies I'm doing this year. Sugar Rush Peach, of course, the Carolina Reaper. I think we've all heard about those. An Orange Starfish, a Mustard Moraga, and are you ready for this one?
All right.
Bohemian Goat is some of the chilies that I'll be growing this year, along with one of my favorites, the Peruvian White Bullet. I also specialize in holistic herbs. Here on the ranch, we have, let me see, actually, I'll be bringing some mugwort in. We have different types of sages up here. I just got through planting white sage, rosemary, and of course, white sages for the earth-based religion folks. They do smudging with it and
what's
make
your
various holistic teas.
What's your website address, Aaron?
What's what?
Your website
I'm sorry,
address.
say that again?
What's your website address?
AladayLLC.com. That's ALALLC.com. And we just got our certificate. I just finally got it all squared away. I was never so happy. I was dancing around in my little living room here when I saw the little green padlock and the S after the HTTP.
Excellent.
So we do take donations through the website. That's squared away. So that's taken care of.
Excellent. Well, I want to talk a little bit about today with you about the mortgage field services industry, which you and I both worked in and still work in somewhat. And so we have a company by the name of ServiceLink. And who, exactly is ServiceLink? Well, ServiceLink used to be LPS, and they had their deal in the new racket called clearboarding. You familiar with clearboarding, Aaron?
I was actually asked 2 years ago, and if you go in and it's on the website, 2014, but started up. Somebody asked me to, and clearboarding that both Safeguard and Cyprix are using, claiming a trademark on, they're using a recycled material and what is called Lexan. It's a polycarbonate material. Lexan was made famous by GE back in the 70s. Bob Gibson, of course, the famous St. Louis Cardinal pitcher, threw 6 innings. For those of you who don't know anything about Bob Gibson, he was the first ball player to throw a baseball clocked at over 100 miles per hour, and that is a feat. That's doing something, and he could not break this material. This material does not belong, fine, it does not belong to Cyprix. They bootlegged and bamboozled Fannie Mae and everybody into believing that they have come up with something new. The flip side of that, on the other side, I understand the clear board. Let's put something in there that looks like a window. My experience, a house boarded up, if it's in a seedy part of town, it's going to become a shooting gallery. It's going to become a homeless shelter. And it's just if you will, it does that. But this material, and I wrote an article just a while back and mentioned it in the podcast. You're in preservation. You probably go talk to them. They can cut their on site. In the shop for you. You can pick it up. I don't agree with the installation methods because, and I'll tell you right now, take a hammer and hit one of them bolts. You're going to crack that stuff. And even the training video stipulates that Cyprix puts out. So I don't agree with drilling holes in it and putting it in. The correct way to install that into something would be to use like some kind of wood stop behind it inside the house, just kind of stick it up in there and then put a wood stop on the sill until the new homeowner or the bank or whatever can pay for it. Now, one of the things that I noticed in Fannie Mae's press release this week, they did stipulate that could use 3/16 polycarbonate material, and 3/16, if I remember the decimal on that, is 0.375. If you see that 0.375, that's the number, the thickness would be acceptable with Fannie Mae. But they gave an out. Fannie Mae doesn't say you have to use Safeguard's Secure View or you have to use Invisiboard by Cyprix. Fannie Mae has stipulated that it can be, as long as it's polycarbonate material, which again, that's a
let me interrupt you there, Aaron.
Plexiglass,
because in fact, Fannie Mae did say you absolutely must use either Invisiboard or Secure View, and to me, that's one of the big problems here. And that is specifically spelled out. That's on Foreclosurepedia right now. Building upon that, though, what we have here is we have a clear violation of the Sherman Act. That's my big concern. I have it in my hand right now because there you go. You can hear it, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you watching me on the cam, you can see it. We have a dispatch from ServiceLink. Field Services Vendor Communication. And this thing reads like some type of manual to build a nuclear power plant. And they're saying point blank, the only thing you can buy is Invisiboard. Nothing else other than Invisiboard. But let me read you some of this insanity. Must be delivered to a business address, cannot be residential. Minimum of 5 sheets per order. Customer is responsible for the unloading. This is madness. This is madness, but it gets better. I want you to listen. So I'm looking at a chart provided by ServiceLink because they don't just say go buy this product. They tell you precisely how to buy it precisely where to buy it. They say, so, now listen to this. To hang a single hung, to install clearboarding on a single hung bottom broken window, you need 2 number A kits. If over 36 inches, add a B kit. Then the next column, which makes no sense to me, single window, you need an A kit and a C kit. But wait, it gets better. If it's over 36 inches, you need 1 A kit, 1 B kit, 1 C kit, and 1 C1 kit. I mean, what in the fuck is this bullshit?
Wow. You know what? I have been a glazer for 40 years. I started in the glass industry back when I was 18 years old. I've helped design windows. I've installed them. I've worked on some of the bigger construction projects on the West Coast, industrial parks. I once supervised the job site for ITT in Reno, Nevada. That building is a quarter of a mile long and 1/8 of a mile wide. That's a huge building. And so I've been on some major glass projects. And I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, what I am seeing with this clearboarding, pardon my language, but they're ass backwards with it. They haven't a clue what they're instructing anybody to do. Their head is so far up their butt that it's unbelievable when it comes to this product. They're instructing people to install it incorrectly, number one. Number two, the issues you just brought up, they cannot do by law unless they're offering the 7,000 employees they have medical benefits. I'm sorry, but
we're going to build out on that in a minute.
You can't do what they're doing, and
what Aaron's building
again, and this is where
the Harriman decision. But before we get over there, I want to shift gears a little bit because right now, so we've been talking about clearboarding. And incidentally, it's not just it's not just ServiceLink. We have M&M Mortgage. That's Juan Gonzalez and George Mencia down there. I used to be very supportive of M&M. Today, I'm not. Today, and over the past week or two, they have been demanding not only that everybody follows along with this clearboarding bullshit, and by their count, they have between 24 and 32,000 properties that must be retrofitted with clearboarding over the next 90 days. So I'm going to close out our piece on clearboarding by saying this, and it's a prediction from Foreclosurepedia. You want to talk about chargebacks, ladies and gentlemen? First of all, you're going to foot the bill. You got to pony up a minimum of $1,000 to have this shit sent to you. And when they start getting into the chargebacks on this, it's going to be like Agatha Christie's, and then there was none. But I want to shift gears over for a moment to a new company called Initial Secure. Initial Secure, ladies and gentlemen, they're out of Fraser, Michigan, allegedly. So over the past 3 weeks, I've gotten several, who knows where they're out of. I pulled their file. Let's see, it's state of Michigan. Yeah, well, they have a file that was filed.
Technology allows you to be anywhere with an office.
In the middle of 2016, updated in 2017. E9095K, Initial Secure LLC. Nobody from the company lists their name. They stay hidden behind the cloakroom known as Northwest Registered Agent Service Incorporated out of Spokane, Washington. But with that said, past couple of weeks, I continue to get an email from Kelly Reynolds. I want to make sure everybody knows who Kelly Reynolds is. The phone number for their office is 313-915-5725. Her email is kelly.reynolds@initialsecure.com. For the second time, and I don't physically perform major work in the industry anymore, I have never filled out an application with these people, nor have I ever requested email correspondence from them. Today, she sent me over a list of addresses. I want to tell everybody where these are. We have one at 38 Harrison Hollow, Belfry, Kentucky. So, it's a long ways out there. We have another.
That's kind of a stretch from you, ain't it?
Caller is calling in a little bit too early because we're running live here. We have another one in Bledsoe, Kentucky, Corbin, Kentucky, Hanson, Kentucky. All of these are ServiceLink properties. And what everybody wants to remember about this is just several weeks ago, Foreclosurepedia announced to everybody that Loudon had lost and or gave away the ServiceLink contract. Now we have these people out of Michigan, who are coming forward and saying, hey, we have all this work for you, Mr. Great Satan, Mr. Editor-in-Chief of Foreclosurepedia.org. If you don't even know who Satan is, you might have a problem, huh? I mean, it's crazy. This is just madness. But so
that's it.
Go ahead.
What I find ironic, what I find so ironic, and I know you haven't quite got there yet, but I just find it ironic in light of Bowerman VFAS, people recruiting right now that don't have a clue. That is what I find ironic, and that falls directly
That's
on
right.
the
Now,
shoulders
ED stands
of
for what?
Mr.
Remind me again,
ED of
erectile dysfunction?
NAMFS, Eric Miller himself.
Oh, executive director. My bad. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, okay. My bad.
I believe
But
in this case,
let me hold you up just there for a moment, Aaron. We're coming up on the top of the hour. I have to do a station identification break. And we got to get a word from our sponsors out there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking right now with Aaron Aviero, Valde LLC. He's both within the organic industry, dealing with products. He actually produces a lot of the products himself, markets those out. He's also a professional within the mortgage field services industry. You're on the Foreclosurepedia Podcast, presentation of the Foreclosurepedia Radio Network. And we will be back right after a word from our sponsors. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Foreclosurepedia Podcast. Foreclosurepedia Podcast presentation of the Foreclosurepedia Radio Network, which premieres every Sunday evening. We're speaking today with Aaron Aviero. As you heard at the bottom of the hour, Mr. Aviero and I have been chewing the fat, if you will, chewing the Miller. About exactly what's going on in the mortgage field services industry. Aaron, I want to talk to you a little bit about, and so allow me to frame the groundwork. Excuse me. We have, what we have is so we have two federal decisions now, both out of the United States District Court for the Northern District of California, dealing with the simple and salient fact that there are no independent contractors in this industry. And in fact, Mr. Brad Hurst filed a lawsuit, which was decided in 2012 against Buchek Enterprises. My source there ended up informing me that Buchek, and that's Adam and his porn star wife, he and Dan, and the rest of that ragtag batch, they paid six figures to settle that. The second decision, which just came down, and you and I are going to talk about, is called the Bowerman decision. And the third decision, coming out just in a week or two, is going to be the Bennett Vincent versus MCS, because MCS bought AMS. The Bowerman decision is against of all people, Assurant Field Asset Services. Assurant, a multi-billion-dollar international firm that had bought field asset services from, excuse me, out of Texas. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm seeing liability everywhere. What I'm seeing is W-2s. Am I wrong? Help me out here.
No, you're 100% correct. And this is what I don't get. I don't know who FAS had representing them, but they need to get a refund on their money. That idiot used the same argument that the boost checks lost. So I don't understand how you go back into the same court with the same argument that a fellow member of the idiot organization you belong to lost. That's number one. The second issue, and I have been saying this, when we were with FAS, I refused to put this property maintained by Field Asset Services in the window. I would put this property is maintained by Alliday LLC for Field Asset Services. And then, of course, things got sideways with us in FAS. But one of the cruxes of both of the decisions was you, as a vendor, you as a contractor of boots on the ground, and I love saying boots on the ground because I know Eric Miller hates that term. Boots on the ground, boots on the ground. Let's all dance in a circle and say boots on the ground. But one of the things, vendors performing certain services are required to post notice provided by, insert any alphabet company in that frame. You can take this FAS decision, this Fireman FAS decision, and you can pull FAS out of everywhere it is in there and put MCS, PK Management, Safeguard Properties, Cyprix into that scenario. It is the same. Why they've not done anything, I don't know.
I want to interrupt here for a moment. What I'm reading from is the case that was filed on 17 March 2017. Ruled 17 March 2017. The case was filed in March of 2013. I'm reading from page 24. And I'm going to come down into paragraph number 2. This is the judge speaking. And this is his ruling. This ruling is massive, ladies and gentlemen. This is a 50-page ruling. Never happened before. I agree, quote, I agree with plaintiffs that none of the new evidence proffered by FAS changes my prior ruling. The judge is pissed. The judge is extremely pissed. And so that's my annotation. This is not in the ruling, ladies and gentlemen. So back to the quote. As plaintiffs recognize, FAS improperly focuses on its actual exercise of control over vendors, rather than its right to exercise that control. Paragraph 19, or cited as 19. In the certification order, I mention as much, quote, under this test, the defendant's right to control the manner and means by which plaintiff's work is accomplished, rather than the amount of control actually exercised, is the principal factor in assessing whether a plaintiff is an employee or an independent contractor. This is citing yet another case in 2014, Aaliyah versus Antelope Valley Newspapers Incorporated. He goes on. I also found that in order that, quote, all vendors execute the same or similar independent contractor agreements with at-will provisions, FAS fails to identify any evidence to convince me otherwise. The judge is basically saying what you just said, Aaron. He's saying that, look, I don't care what company you put in there. I don't care. And incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, always with the show prep Foreclosurepedia, you can go to foreclosurepedia.org right now. You can read our commentary. You can download that case, the Hearst case, and the Vincent case. But look, Aaron, the judge is saying the same damn thing you're saying. You know what I feel like? When I'm hearing this stuff, and when I'm reading about this stuff, I feel like I've entered into a hall, and outside there's a big banner, and that banner states that Welcome to the Gay Black Jewish Klansmen for Tolerance and Understanding meeting out of Smyrna, Georgia. You know? I mean, I'm in a black hole here, you know? Fuck.
You got me on your, I said it in the podcast this morning, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't catch yesterday's article, it's hysterical. It'll put you on the floor laughing. I got it. Kudos for that. That you got me on that one. I was halfway through it before I figured it out. It was good. It really was. Yeah.
Mr. Alviera is actually speaking about the April Fool's article wherein Eric Miller and I changed roles. It was almost like what was it with John Travolta, Face Off, or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, that I was like, it was like I said, I was halfway through it before I figured it out. I went, oh my god! But yeah, that was good. That was definitely a good one. Well, I mean, here's the deal.
But no, what you're saying though is
Foreclosurepedia. Just last week, we actually filed. Foreclosurepedia filed a complaint with the United States Department of Labor and asked for a ruling, and that complaint was specifically against PK Management, and Craig Carnes was brought into the loop on that. Because when and so there are many things in that ruling, not just how the work order was et cetera ad nauseum. One of the linchpins was, in essence, if you worked 80% of your work orders for one company, so you've met that threshold. And that's a high threshold. That's not the courts. I'm putting
actually,
it at 80.
I think the threshold's lower than that. It's only 70.
Right, but I'm saying if you've worked 80, you might be a redneck or an employee or whatever we're going to call it today that Miller can't say. Anyway, so we brought in HUD on this as well because now we're pending the release of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development's Marketing and Management Field Service Manager 3.10 contract. And what I've found and what I've noticed is that this industry takes note when you have a United States government agency, vis-a-vis HUD in this case, actually step forward and say, hey, here's the issues. Just like the electrical backfeeding. That's off the table now. How Brent Martin and his little pimp, Al Espinoza, his little Cuban boy, is forcing, and in my opinion, employees, not labor, to continue to perform electrical backfeeding in states like New Jersey is beyond me. Now, I know that Brent lives down there on that border of Utah where they have a hell of a lot of multiple wives and weird, sectarian fucking Mormon religious flavors. But still, the law of the land is the law of the land. What say you, Aaron Aviero?
Well, the judge spelled it out. As a matter of law, these people are employees. And when you talk about the backfeeding, I believe it was, the guy Matt, somebody up in Montana. I call him Montana Matt. I don't remember
Matt
his last name.
Steffen. I love the guy.
Sent the stuff into
Matt Steffen. He's the guy who...
He's the one that said, hey,
Go ahead.
To OSHA, and OSHA said, hey, you're crazy. You can't be doing this. Now, OSHA, the Occupation Hazard Safety Association there, how can anybody, especially when you're dealing with a government contract, and this is where the Vincent AMS issue becomes really, really, really kind of going to grab someone by the short hairs, especially if you kept track of your hours. That's very critical right there, because that is a government contract which requires prevailing wage. And when PK Management years ago came knocking on our door, they threw this at us and they had this little thing in there. And I said, well, wait a minute. If the contract goes over $2,500, I told Les Steinberg, I said, we're going to do that in a week. What are you, crazy? I said, I can't, you got to give me more money than this. I can't afford to pay people prevailing wage on this contract. He says, oh, no. That's just for one job. I said, no, that's not how this reads. And that's not how the law reads. And make no mistake about it. Les Steinberg knew what he was doing all the time. He's an attorney. He's not stupid. But what he's doing, I really don't know how he went from being a very well-respected attorney in California to somebody in the legal department or a recruiter for a second-rate order mill, bamboozling people into thinking they're independent contractor when they're really employees. Their whole contract read, and for those of you who don't remember or are new to the industry, Kim Savage has a group on Facebook. The videos that I did, there's a series of 5-minute videos that I did. I stripped the PK management contract, and I actually conversed with an attorney, and we put these little videos together, and we went step by step, clause by clause, section by section of that contract, and when it was all said and done, you were an employee.
Absolutely.
That was 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
I always give my clients a checklist to look through when they're dealing with NAMPS offender members. And I say, if they won't tell you they're a NAMPS member, I say check the following. Do they have dilated pupils? Do they get frequent nosebleeds? Nasal congestion? Do they have sniffling? Do they have a history of tachycardia? Impaired movement, seizures, elevated BP and respiration? Do they have hallucinations? Do they seem to appear to present with agitation, anxiety, perhaps even anorexia or weight loss? Then you might be a NAMPS offender member. Forget about it. Aaron, it's always great to speak with you. I got another guest coming in here at the bottom of the hour. Why don't you go ahead and walk my listeners through who you are once again, how to get a hold of you, and I'm going to tell you, folks. Look, I have ordered herbs, legal herbs, from Aaron. I'm going to tell you, I love, I like using that because where you're at, it's all legal. A lot of my listeners, it's not, but these are incredible, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Look, these are organic. These are overseen by Aaron himself. And I'm going to tell you, when I sit down to cook a pot of spaghetti and I'm fixing the sauce, hey, forget about it. So why don't you tell my listeners how to get a hold of you?
You can always get a hold of me through the website, alladayllc.com. Of course, now tomorrow I will be again live going back on America Matters Media, AM News. I'll be calling in to report tomorrow morning. You can catch me GMO Tuesday. Of course, I am an anti-GMO guy. Not that I think the technology is bad. I just think the way they're using it is bad. Preservation Thursday. That podcast comes out on Thursday afternoons. You can always call me on the phone, send me a text, 775-230-9915. And as a side note here, we are looking right now. I've had a lot of people in the industry ask, in the property preservation and GMO, the agricultural industry, we're looking to develop a call-in talk radio show format for the preservation industry. And as I said in my podcast this morning, I'm not looking to get into beating up people up or beating companies up. I want to present facts. I want to present solutions, have a good conversation, legal, business-oriented type things. If anybody out there would consider being a sponsor, you would get 12 minutes. You would get your own segment on the air live once a week to promote your company, what you're doing, and, of course, advertisers. We have some great advertising packages through America Matters Media, and, of course, that's part of the Lotus media network, America Matters Media is. So it's a good opportunity. And like I said, a lot of stuff. Catch me on the GMO Tuesday thing if you're into agriculture. I specialize in culinary and holistic herbs and chilies, the hottest chilies in the world. I grow like 6 different kinds of basils. And of course, Paul referencing spaghetti sauce. You cannot have a spaghetti sauce without basil, ladies and gentlemen. And if you do pesto, hey, Italian basil, we got it. We got it all.
Right. That's right. Well, Aaron, I always appreciate you reaching out, speaking with us. You're an excellent part of the network. Aaron and I are going to sit down here in, actually less than 48 hours, and we're going to talk about what everybody else is talking about out there right now, the International Association of Field Service Technicians. Aaron, I'm going to talk at you with you in a bit. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for having me. And as I always say, let's have a great day. Let's all be safe out there.
Amen. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, you may reach me on Google Plus at D. Paul Williams, LinkedIn, Paul Williams, and the LinkedIn group Property Preservation Consortium, Twitter, Foreclosurepedia. We stream all our podcasts on iTunes, Foreclosurepedia. We have our screencasts over on YouTube, the Foreclosurepedia channel, and always at foreclosurepedia.org. We'd like to give a special shout out to Amazon.com, whom provides our S3 podcast and video storage, and Cloudflare for hosting Foreclosurepedia in 24 different geo-positioned servers, pro bono as well. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to give me a shout out, COO@foreclosurepedia.org.